If you're here to learn about the new Massachusetts ADU law, you are in the right place. Going into effect February 2nd, this law allows single-family owners to create an additional dwelling unit, or ADU, under 900 square feet by right, meaning you don't need special permission from your city or town to do so, as long as it meets building and safety codes. This law can be transformational for housing affordability. For first-time buyers, ADUs can help them qualify for a house or offset a mortgage payment. For existing homeowners, ADUs allow them to generate some much-needed additional income. It also presents an opportunity for investors, since ADU conversions do not need to be owner-occupied. So you can essentially turn a single family into 2 units. Now, on the renter side of the equation, this is going to open up a lot of affordable units that didn't exist before, which the state desperately needs. It truly is a win-win situation. This is a policy that's going to create a ton of value for many different stakeholders in the housing market. And in this video, I'll show you what this law is and isn't, provide some real life examples, and walk you through the best ways to execute on an ADU. So let's get into it. The official piece of legislation is called the Affordable Homes Act, and it allows you to create or build an ADU on any single family property in the state. The law defines an ADU as a secondary residential living space located on the same lot of a single family home. So here are some possible configurations for ADUs. You could have a fully detached unit, an attached unit, interior upper level, that would be like a finished attic with its own egress. An interior lower level unit, that's a basement unit. Those are really common because most of them have entrances and exits anyway. Above the garage unit, those are pretty common as well. And then a garage conversion, which is changing the entire garage into an additional unit. So you can see that there's a lot of options for conversions of different living spaces to additional units. But what's great is that there's a good amount of houses that already have spaces built out. So it may not cost much at all to create an ADU if you find the right property. More on that later. Now, they do have to meet certain restrictions. The biggest one being that it must meet the state building code. So you'll have to make sure they have the correct egresses, ceiling height, and any other safety measures. If you're building one, you need to pay attention to setbacks, building height, things like that. They can also be no more than 900 square feet or 1/2 the square footage of the main house, whichever is smaller. Lastly, they cannot be short-term rented unless the municipality allows for that. And towns are able to impose reasonable restrictions on certain elements. One example is I've heard some towns are restricting ADUs to not be in the front yard, but allowing them in the backyard. But as long as these requirements are met, the law states that homeowners can have ADUs by right, meaning there's no special permit or variance needed. The town or your neighbors can't reject it. And if they try to, it seems that the state will have options to support homeowners. Bottom line is the state wants these units built, and they've made it much easier to do so. And I think they'll really support homeowners in this case rather than municipalities trying to limit them. If you'd like to take a look at all the official guidance from the state and basically every other resource I could find, I've compiled them all on my website, and you can head there at the link in the description. There's also a link to an 87-page handbook the City of Boston put together, which details every configuration of an ADU, what the building and permitting process is like, and how to plan an ADU from start to finish. Now, this is Boston specific, but since they're so far ahead of other municipalities, I can see this kind of guidance being adopted statewide. It's the best total guide for an ADU that I could find anywhere. So in my opinion, as a broker and investor in Mass, I think the most value to be had from this law is with properties that have easy and affordable conversion options, as opposed to an ADU that needs to be built from the ground up. I just think construction costs, interest rates, project delays, things like that make new ADU builds super difficult for the average homeowner. But if you already have a property or can find one that has like a finished basement or some type of in-law suite or maybe a partially finished garage, then there's really not going to be much cost associated with the conversion, which makes it that much easier to start generating additional cash flow from a rental. Let's take a look at a real life example of an easy ADU conversion. This home in Melrose recently sold, and I look at a lot of properties in this area, so I happen to see in the pictures that it's built into a hill and has kind of like a full basement level that looks like it was used as a separate one-bedroom apartment at one time, or could be easily set up for that. If you look at this picture, you can tell that you likely have the required ceiling height since this is a full-size door and also has a private entrance, which is great. From this angle, you can see that there's an existing kitchen, which you can easily add a stove to once your ADU is permitted. Here, you can see that it has its own bathroom with ceiling fan, which is code when you don't have a window, so that's good to see. And then finally, there's this separate room, which could be used as a bedroom, making this a true one-bedroom ADU. Now, outside of the cost of permitting and adding a stove to this unit, not much is needed to be done to make it a legal rental. And I know that a unit in this shape, in this neighborhood, would easily rent for at least like $2,000 a month, if not more. What's nice about this setup is you have a full single family above that you can live in, and as long as you have good tenants, you're not going to realize much of an inconvenience, and you get to benefit from at least $24,000 a year in additional income. So full disclosure, this house sold for $1.3 million, which I know is out of the range of most buyers, but I see scenarios like this for more affordable homes, even in the like $600,000 to $800,000 range, depending on the area. You just need to know the key aspects to look for, and you'll find they're really more common than you would think. Here's another quick example in Peabody, or Peabody if you're not from around here. This house is under agreement for $625,000, so way more affordable than the last one, although it does need a good amount of work. But you can see here that there's this separate entrance and a finished area above the attached garage. So when you take a look at the interior pictures, you can see that it has good ceiling height. It already has a bath plumbed in. Now this would need a kitchen, so there's some higher conversion costs in this example, but still a very affordable house in a good area with a very ADU friendly layout to aid in an easy conversion. So if you decide to look for a property with an ADU, you can do it on your own if you really want to educate yourself on ADU specifications and take some time weeding through properties to get a sense of which would be good conversion opportunities. But I will say it takes a lot of time to identify good conversions. So in this case, I would recommend working with an agent that understands the law and what you're trying to achieve with an ADU. So at my company, Wealthy REI, we specialize in working with investors, and we definitely consider ADUs one of the most viable investment strategies in Mass. So if you're seriously considering purchasing, we'd love to chat with you about it and hopefully find you a great property for an ADU. Now, for those that already own a house and are considering adding on an ADU, it's important to reach out to your city officials to see what permitting is needed since this law is so new. And then also contact a general contractor or architect to determine what needs to be done to achieve the conversion, because they can give you a sense of what's required by building code and also give you some cost estimates. My company offers an ADU consulting package for homeowners where we come take a look at the project for initial feedback. If it's feasible, can point you in the direction of all the professionals you need to complete the job. This ranges from general contractors, subcontractors, architects, lenders, all who have experience working with ADUs, so they understand what you're trying to achieve here. After it's finished, we offer guidance on renting it out, how to screen tenants, how to draft a lease, collect rent, everything that goes along with being a landlord. ADUs have great potential, but this is a new law, so we can only predict how it'll play out, and I do have some questions about certain aspects of the law. First, I wonder how permitting will play out at the municipal level. Like, true, ADUs are allowable by right, but there's still a permitting process at the town or city level, and I have a feeling that there will be some that will still try to limit ADUs, but also I hope that there's some towns that will try to embrace it. Now, for those that unreasonably restrict them, which would go against the law, I wonder what qualifies as unreasonable, and what resources do homeowners have to challenge the reasonableness of a decision. Next, I question how lenders will handle ADUs. So currently, when you buy a multifamily, the rent is added to your income, so you can qualify for a higher purchase price than you would a single family with no rental income. Since ADUs will be legal, I would think the rent collected would now be counted in your qualification to purchase a home, even though it's technically a single family. So this would make it much easier for some buyers to qualify for a home purchase, especially given rates now, and also allow others who already qualify to be able to purchase a larger or nicer home. So these are just a couple of many smaller issues that need to be ironed out. So in the early stages of the rollout of the Affordable Homes Act, I'd expect to see some technicalities being worked through, which could delay ADU projects in certain towns, those that choose to push back. So it's just something that we'll have to monitor here. Overall, I'm super optimistic about allowing ADUs en masse. I think it's something that can really have a positive impact on our housing market, and that's not just a hunch. If you look at California, they've been enacting ADU-friendly legislation since 2016 and have seen mass adoption of the strategy. So according to YIMBY, which is a California housing advocacy group, ADU permitting has grown 42 to 76% every year outside of 2020. And as of 2022, 1 in 5 homes being built are ADUs, and over 83,000 units have been created since legislation passed. Now, California does have more lenient ADU policies, like allowing multiple to be built on the same lot, a generous grant program through the state, the ability to turn them into condos and sell them separately, so it makes sense that ADUs will be widely adopted. But I'm hoping that this mass law is a way for the state to get comfortable with them and hopefully allow even more access in years to come. I still see our adoption rate being strong since there's a lot of value to be created, whether you're a homeowner, renter, investor, contractor. There's a lot of opportunities for all parties involved. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please throw me a like below and make sure you subscribe to the channel, as we'll be providing updates on this policy as things unfold. There's also a link in the description where you can sign up for my ADU newsletter, which will give you sporadic updates on any developments we see in the space. Thank you for tuning in.